let's talk about pickles. Welcome back to Sprung on Food. I'm your host, Kae Sprung. This season, we're talking about favorite foods, the history behind it, and the role it plays in the world today. Joining me today is podcasting queen, Emily Lubin. Emily, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I love how you actually introduced me as podcasting queen. You had sent me an email asking how I wanted to be addressed, and I'm just so appreciative that you respected my wishes.
I'm very respectful, and I do not want to wing somebody's preferred title. So, podcasting queen, Your Majesty, welcome.
Thank you.
Well, Emily, I'm very excited that you are here, especially to talk about your personal favorite food, because it was an exciting one for me to dive into. It's also a food that I'm very passionate about as well. Yours is pickles. I have to know all about it, your relationship with this food, why it is your favorite. Tell me all the things.
Okay, well, I'm really happy to know that you are a pickle person also.
Oh, yes.
Pickles, it's one of those foods that it requires such an allegiance. Like, to really call yourself a pickle fan, you need to be obsessed with them, and people get, it's like almost like a cult, I think, that we find ourselves in. I don't think anyone likes pickles just okay. I think you either love them or you hate them. And that's like my own personal theory, but I've always been obsessed with them. I always have loved pickles. Ever since I was really little, I remember going to the grocery store and we would get a fresh jar of pickles every time. And then when I would be helping my mom like unload the groceries, I would eat half the jar. Like half the jar would be gone by the time the groceries were unpacked. And I always would get pickles on the side of any meal when we'd go to the diner, or actually we used to go to this pizza restaurant. It was a small chain. It was called Pizza and Brew. I don't know if it exists anymore, but I would get spaghetti and meatballs with a side of pickles. And then
What?
yeah.
They were like, excuse me, little miss, it doesn't come with a side. And you're like, oh, no, today it does.
It always comes with a side of pickles. And I actually went back there. We used to go there all the time, and then we moved away. And
Where was this?
It was in Rybrook, New York.
Okay.
Yeah. And we moved out of that town. And then for some reason, we found ourselves back there. Like we were passing through there one day and we were like, oh, let's stop by Pizza and Brew. And I ordered the same thing. I ordered spaghetti and meatballs with a side of pickles. And the waitress gets wide-eyed. Her jaw drops to the floor and she goes, I remember you.
No way. The same person was there too?
The same waitress. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's an order one can't forget.
I guess so. Yeah.
You could be able to go back and say, I'll have my usual, and they'll know exactly what you want.
Which is the dream. I've always wanted to be able to do that, like to frequent a restaurant that much. And I guess that was my time to do it, was at Pizza and Brew.
It's not too late. You should see after this if they're still open. If they're still open, you're going to have to pay them a visit. You know that person's probably still working there. And then you're going to have to give your order, wink, and say, and that's my usual. And then it's like locked in. Next time you go, from then on, they know.
I love that. I love that. And keep in mind, I think this is about like 10 or 12 years apart.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty incredible. Now the pickle, okay, so you get the pickle on the side, but then how are you consuming it? Is it separately? Are you dipping it in the spaghetti and meatballs? Like, what's the practice?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. No, it's all separate, but
Okay.
I don't have a weird thing, and I've never had a weird thing about my food touching or like mixing flavors that much. So, it would be like bite of spaghetti, bite of pickle, bite of spaghetti, bite of pickle.
Oh. And what do you think that adds? Just a little bit of like a zing and tang and saltiness to the dish?
Yeah, I honestly think it amplifies almost anything. And I've spoken about this. It's not, I was going to say guilty pleasure, but I'm not guilty about it at all.
No,
I love
proud
peanut
about
butter
it.
and pickle sandwiches.
Wow, that is a
Yeah.
flavor combination I would not have thought about.
Really?
How did you discover that?
Yeah, so I'm actually surprised you haven't heard of it since you work in the realm of cooking.
I don't
It's
know if it's a very popular, common I mean, not to disparage
well,
your combinations, but I am, or I'm just checked out and I'm not aware, so I'm gonna
I
take the hit for that one. So it may
yeah,
be
I
very
think
popular, and I
yeah,
just spoke out of turn.
yeah, I think you just haven't been made aware of it. It actually has like kind of a cult following.
Oh.
And the way that I learned about it was actually there was an article in the New York Times. This was a while ago. It might have been like 10 years ago, but there was an article in the New York Times about it was a an opinion piece, I think. And so this guy was writing from his own perspective about how he grew up with peanut butter and pickle sandwiches and he loves them, and he was trying to pass it on to the next generation, like to teach his daughter about it and to
Wow.
expose her to that flavor and stuff. And he also spoke about how there is this cafe in New York called Peanut Butter and Company, and
Oh.
they make this brand of peanut butter with all these different fun flavors. Like they make this white chocolate flavored peanut butter that's really
Oh,
good.
I
And
know about this,
yeah,
yes.
and
They
Peanut Butter
have a
and Co.
pickle
is
one?
amazing. No, so
Oh, okay.
they have a cafe in New York, and they have one of the sandwiches on the menu. Like they have all these different sandwiches. Like they have the Elvis, because
Uh-huh.
Elvis apparently ate peanut butter and bacon and peanut butter toward the end of
Yes.
his life. Like that was his favorite sandwich. But anyway, they have
Yes.
this one called the Pregnant Lady, and it's peanut butter and pickles. And the folklore is that a pregnant woman came in one day and asked for peanut butter and pickles on white bread, and
Oh.
they started selling it. And yeah, so anyway, this is all to say there's like a big cult following for it. And what it does, like flavor profile wise, is the vinegar in the pickle kind of cuts through the greasiness of the peanut butter
Mm,
in a
right.
really nice way that you wouldn't expect. And anyway, that's all to say, I feel like pickles add that to a lot of things that you wouldn't think. I haven't
Y
experimented too much with it, but that like sharp vinegar, the zing, as you say, like I feel like it goes with a lot of things.
You know what? You're not wrong, and you've just opened my mind to the possibilities with peanut butter, so this is something that I'm now feeling very inspired to try, and I will report back. I will let you know my honest thoughts, but I'm down to go on a food adventure and try that because now I'm intrigued. Do you have a go-to pickle purveyor or brand that you like to stick to, or are you equal opportunity for whoever's got them?
I'm not equal opportunity at all. I'm very, very biased. I don't like the brands like Vlasic or like the ones where the pickle juice is like that fluorescent yellow. It really
Okay.
disgusts me.
They will not be a sponsor of this podcast. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, no, you can do better.
Oh,
You
okay,
can
okay.
do
A girl
better.
can dream. Okay, who do you
Yeah.
like? No, I'm just kidding.
So I think a good standard classic pickle is Clausen, you know, the brand
Yes.
Clausen.
Mhm.
That's always a good one. But I
Okay.
also really love the Trader Joe's kosher dill pickles. They're
I have some in my fridge
amazing.
right now. Yep.
From Trader Joe's?
Yes, ma'am. Mhm.
Yeah, they're so good. They do them really well. But at the end of the day, I think you really can't do better than a Jewish deli. Like
Mm.
the big dill pickles, always full sour. I do not like half sours. I like full sours. And you really can't go wrong at a Jewish deli.
Okay. Good. Okay, so we've got our endorsements, both CPG and supporting our local business. So I love that. And, to better appreciate and understand our food, we've got to know where it came from. So grab a jar, whether it be kosher, dill, sweet, sour, or specialty like a cornichon if you're feeling fancy, because we're diving into the briny depths of pickle history. Our story begins over 4,000 years ago in ancient Mesopotamia. Yeah, the land of early writing, epic poetry, and pickles. It turns out the people living between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers had a problem. Fresh food didn't last long in the heat, but necessity is the mother of invention, and so they discovered that soaking vegetables in brine, essentially salt water, kept them edible for much longer. This process, now known as pickling, spread across empires, from the Persians to the Greeks and Romans, each civilization adding their own twist to the pickled story. But how did cucumbers become the item that earned the honorable title of pickle? Just to cover our bases, the word pickle in this case comes from the Dutch word pekkel, which means, Emily, do you have a guess of what that translates to?
I'm only familiar with the word pecker, which is a
Oh,
slang for genitalia, which I'm assuming it is not what it means.
it's not what it means, but I like your, is it etymology association?
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm thinking like it's shaped like a cucumber,
Listen, this is an excellent guess. I'd love to say you're not wrong. In this case, it does not mean that. It means brine. If you were,
Mm.
do you like how that came from that and how it got the name pickle? Do you think that pickle should have a different name? What would you name it?
I love the name. Like,
Okay.
I love phonetically how the word pickle sounds. I think
Okay.
it's fun to say. I wouldn't change a goddamn thing about
Mm.
the etymology or the name.
Okay, amen. Pickle it shall remain. So excellent. Thank you, Dutch. Now, historians believe cucumbers were first cultivated in India around 2000 BCE before making their way to the Middle East and Mediterranean through trade routes. The Romans, ever the culinary innovators, began pickling cucumbers in vinegar and brine, making them a staple in their feasts. In fact, Emperor Tiberius was reportedly so fond of pickled cucumbers that he demanded them year round. The practice of pickling cucumbers spread through Europe, becoming a common method of preserving food, especially in colder climates where fresh vegetables weren't always available. Fast forward to the days of Cleopatra, and you'll find that pickles were more than just a snack. They were a beauty food. That's right, the legendary queen swore that pickles were a part of her diet, claiming they helped maintain her famed looks. Meanwhile, Cleopatra's lover, ooh la la, Julius Caesar, was dishing them out to his troops, believing pickles gave them strength and endurance. No word on whether that's why Rome conquered half the known world, but hey, it's a theory. Emily, have you ever heard of pickles being part of a beauty routine or giving people strength and endurance?
I haven't heard that, but it tracks to me because vinegar, people take shots of apple cider vinegar to
Oh,
maintain, as part of their wellness routine. It has like, so called detoxing properties. So that actually does make sense to me. And also, just anecdotally, the most beautiful women I know eat pickles. So
huh. Are there, I'm always a fan of everybody getting some merch. Should there be like hot girls eat pickles or something like that,
that
t-shirts or,
needs to be a thing. That
yeah.
that if that's not already a thing, TM, guys.
Okay, okay. So yeah, it happened here. We're doing a virtual shake on it. Wonderful.
Yes.
Well, pickles, they even sailed the high seas. During the age of exploration, sailors depended on them to prevent scurvy, because as it turns out, pickled veggies can be a good source of vitamin C. Christopher Columbus, Amerigo Vespucci, and their crews wouldn't have made it very far without barrels of preserved cucumbers. Vespucci, in fact, was a merchant in the pickling trade before he got into the whole naming a continent thing. Priorities, right? Columbus was so committed to pickles that he even grew cucumbers in Haiti to restock his supply mid voyage. By the 1650s, Dutch farmers in New York had caught on to the pickle craze, growing cucumbers in what is now Brooklyn and selling them from barrels on the street. The street side pickle trade laid the foundation for what would become the world's largest pickle industry. Emily, living in New York, what do you think that the street pickle scene in early Brooklyn was like?
Wow. Magical. Like I
Oh,
I live in Brooklyn now and I can't tell you how many times I've been on the way to the train or like running late to something and I want to grab a snack but I just don't know. Like nothing feels appropriate. And I feel like that's a really common feeling when you're on the go, especially in New York. If there were street side pickles that I could just grab and go, I would be a much happier person, I think.
yes. Okay, so maybe this is another thing that we try to push for. We've got pickle carts in the streets of Brooklyn in current
And hot
day.
girls eat pickles.
Yep. Maybe the
Merch.
people maybe the people serving them are wearing those shirts. I don't know. Maybe that's the name of the
Ooh,
business.
synergy.
Mhm.
Yes. Wow. Okay. This I'm going to remember this day as the day that we started multiple businesses together. I love it.
I'm very into it. Yes, we're making things happen. Napoleon Bonaparte was so obsessed with food preservation that he offered a 12,000 franc prize, which is about $250,000 today, to anyone who could figure out how to better preserve food for his army. Enter French chef Nicolas Appert, who in 1809 realized that sealing food in airtight glass jars and boiling them kept it fresh, basically inventing modern canning. Then, in 1858, John Mason patented the mason jar, making pickling even easier for households everywhere. Fast forward to the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and waves of Eastern European Jewish immigrants brought the art of kosher pickling to America, making New York City the undeniable pickle capital of the world. Your dream, Emily.
Yes.
Push carts lined the Lower East Side, slinging garlicky, crunchy kosher dills to anyone looking for a bite of home. The famous New York deli experience? Yeah, it wouldn't be complete without a crisp pickle on the side. And you can learn more about kosher delis on a previous episode of Sprung on Food, available wherever you get your podcasts. But during World War II, pickles were actually being rationed by the US government, where 40% of the pickles produced were sent to the armed forces. Now, speaking of history, let's talk about the legendary, not your favorite, but Vlasic pickles. Founded in the 1940s by a Croatian immigrant named Frank Vlasic, the company revolutionized pickles by mass producing them in glass jars, making them more accessible to homes across America. Their iconic stork mascot, introduced in the 1970s, became one of the most recognizable figures in food advertising. Meanwhile, Mount Olive Pickle Company, founded in 1926 in North Carolina, has grown into one of the largest privately held pickle companies in the US, shipping millions of jars annually. Oh, and did I mention that cucumbers are actually botanically classified as a fruit? Yeah, it's because they grow from a flower and contain seeds. Emily, what do you think so far of the history and backstory of the pickle?
It's really insane. I had no I mean, I thought that maybe it would go back farther than I thought, but I didn't realize Mesopotamians were eating pickles. I would have never guessed that.
Yes, Mesopotamians, they're just like us. They're just like
Yes.
you, just loving the pickles. Yeah.
Yes. But I mean, it makes sense. Like now that you're going through it all, it the whole progression tracks because it's all about preserving.
Mm.
And they do last a really long time. And I know like people used to heavily salt their meat so that it would last a long time, like pre-refrigeration. So yeah, I mean, it all makes sense. And I guess that's why it's such a classic food. It's because it's been around forever.
Yes, and would you ever have guessed that a cucumber is a fruit? Was that something that you were privy
Oh,
to?
no. And I I I mean, really?
According to, my research on the internet,
So,
yes.
I mean, I don't wanna get us too off topic, but I feel like every other day of food that we've all accepted to be a vegetable has been labeled as a fruit. Like, I feel like I'm constantly learning that things that I thought were vegetables are fruits, and the list of actual vegetables is getting smaller and smaller by the day.
Yeah, was there another one that surprised you? I
Well,
think most
tomatoes
yes, most
tomatoes were
famously.
surprising, but,
Mhm.
I've known about that one for a while, and that
Right.
at least they are a little bit sweet, so to me, I can classify that in my brain as like, "Okay, yeah, sure, that's a fruit," and I get the
Right.
whole, like, it has seeds thing,
Mhm, mhm.
but then, apparently squash is a fruit, like, all of this other stuff that in my mind, it's strictly a vegetable.
Right.
Now I have to recalibrate my whole brain because like, what is a vegetable? Is kale the only vegetable we have left?
Well, did you know that kale's not a no, I'm just kidding. I'm
Stop.
not
Oh my
I'm
god.
not sure. I haven't done my I'm not gonna crush your dreams today. Well, these days, pickles are everywhere. They're in sandwiches, deep fried at state fairs, sipped as pickle juice shots, and even starring in some wild flavor combinations like we've talked about. And this one, pickled flavored ice cream from a pregnant lady's. And this
Mm.
definitely includes the presence in pop culture over the years. In 1611, the idiom "in a pickle" was born. It's believed to have come from William Shakespeare's The Tempest, where the phrase refers to being in a difficult situation. He used pickle in a way that would describe being intoxicated. The English do their thing, and the Americans later used it to describe being in a tough spot. In 2000, the Philadelphia Eagles crushed the Dallas Cowboys on a 109-degree day. The players credited their endurance to drinking pickle juice. Taking this to science, a later study at Brigham Young University showed that drinking pickle juice relieved a cramp 45% faster than drinking no fluids, but about 37% faster than water. In the early aughts, we were introduced to Snooki and the Jersey Shore. Snooki's love for pickles made them a featured character on the show as her preferred snack. Did you feel a synergy with her on that?
Absolutely. And also, there is a specific episode where the boys prank Snooki. They
Uh-oh.
take her pickles. They would always tease her for her pickle addiction. So they took pickles, or maybe it was just like empty jars of the pickled juice. I'm not sure. And they put it under her bed and waited for her to like notice a stench or something.
Oh, this
And
sounds familiar.
yeah. And I was so pissed watching that episode because I was like, you're wasting perfectly good pickles with this prank.
You're like the gold. What are you doing?
Exactly. But yeah, I loved how into pickles Snooki was. I absolutely did feel a kinship. And also just to chime in on the drinking pickle juice to relieve cramps.
Yes.
That totally makes sense because electrolytes, like the electrolytes in a sports drink, like Liquid IV or Gatorade or what have you, it really is just sodium. So Gatorade is actually manufactured pickle juice, or I guess pickle juice you could call natural Gatorade.
Could you imagine if in future sports games, instead of drenching them with Gatorade, it's just pickle juice?
Again, what a beautiful world it would be.
Well, in 2017, the iconic Pickle Rick episode of the cartoon series Rick and Morty turned this character and phrase into a cult classic. Today, the pickle industry is booming. According to 2023 data, the global pickle market was valued at over, Emily, do you want to take a guess?
600 million.
Okay, well, by Price is Right rules, you win, but it was valued.
But I'm not close.
Not so close.
God,
But this
okay.
will make you proud of your food. It was valued at over 12 billion with a B.
No.
With projections showing steady growth. And can you take a guess? Maybe based on these figures now with the knowledge that you have, the amount of pickles that each person consumes in the US annually?
How about like 5 pounds?
Okay, well, again, by Price is Right rules, you win, but
It's more?
the average is 9 pounds of pickles per person annually.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
that might be, with your contributions. So
Yeah, I'm
maybe
putting it
without
over the
you,
edge.
maybe it would have been 5, but because you've been
Yeah.
helping us out, who
I
knows?
think, yeah, I would not be surprised if I eat maybe 20 pounds of pickles a year. So yeah, maybe that's
You've been
contributing to
helping out
that.
the average. Thank you for your services.
Oh,
Yes.
you're so welcome.
Well, and pickle lovers, they can gather and celebrate National Pickle Day with you every November 14th. Emily, can you think of any other pop culture moments or any final words that you have about your favorite food?
What I will say is if you have a pickle lover in your life and you are hard pressed to find a birthday gift or a holiday gift, my friend, the greatest gift she ever gave me for my birthday, she jarred her own pickles for me, and it was so many. She made like 20 jars of pickles
Wow.
and gave me a whole case. And I'm telling you, like, she's gotten me some nice gifts before. This was the best one.
Oh my goodness. And so she was pickling them on her own?
Yeah, she pickled them on her own. I don't know if
Wow.
she found a recipe somewhere, or she likes to cook, so she knows her way around the kitchen, but it was so touching to me because it was like that that personal touch. And also, like, I'm telling you, like, pickle lovers, we're a community and we
Oh,
really support each other. And that's how I feel. So if anybody listening is also passionate about pickles the same way as I am, slide in my DMs. We can talk about it.
I love it. The open invitation, the sense of community. There's going to be in the same vein of a book club. There's going to be a pickle club, and
Oh, I would love
they're
that.
going to come and they're going to visit the Brooklyn streets with the hot girls, eat pickles, vendor.
We're
This
going to
is
have a pickle girl summer.
oh my god. Yeah, move
Oh,
over Charlie XCX. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Emily, thank you so much for sharing your love of pickles and helping me to tell its story.
Thank you so much. This was honestly one of the most enjoyable podcasts I've ever been
Oh,
on because it was just talking about something that I'm purely passionate about.
I'm honored and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. You can find links and more info in the description below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. See you next time.